All right, folks, here we are for another episode of Off the Grid. Hey, I wanted to welcome my next guest. My next guest is an MC who draws roots from Hawaii, but now is based out of the West Coast. Wanted to welcome Creed Chameleon. Hey, thank you, brother, for making time to jump on this session with me.
Hell yeah. It's a pleasure, man.
Yeah, hey, man. So before I get into your dope catalog, I just wanted to really take it back real quick. I wanted to talk about your background. So can you tell me where you were born and where you grew up, and then how long you've been making music?
Yeah. So originally, I was born in Guam, for a couple of years. Yeah. So a lot of people don't know that. But my folks, left the Philippines, wanted to, of course, I think in every Philam story, wanted to give us a better future. So I think the first journey was taking a step out of the Philippines and moving to Guam. And then for a couple of years we were there, and then we moved to Hawaii. And most of my life I've lived in Hawaii, since elementary all the way to my high school, college years. But yeah, my musical background stems from grew up in the 80s and whatnot. So my folks and my family, especially my cousins, were the ones that heavily influenced me. So the biggest thing was I grew up listening to bands from Metallica to Motley Crue.
Nice.
I don't know what the proper term is, but the hairspray era, the rock, those poofy
Nice.
long hair. Yeah, Guns N' Roses. And then with the hip hop, I was brought up, listening to Run DMC, Beastie Boys. So yeah, at a very early age, I was already delving into hip hop in some sense.
Yeah. Hey, were you born in Guam, or did you immigrate there from the Philippines?
Oh, I was born in Guam. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. What part of Guam?
So born in, I think the area was called Tamuning, but we lived in
Yeah.
Dededo. Yeah, Dededo.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah. And it's
You still go
unfortunate.
back or no?
No, I mean, if the time aligns, I would love to, go back and check it out. But it's unfortunate because I don't really know so much of the family roots of us when we went back to or when we lived in Guam and whatnot.
Yeah, I went to elementary school out there, and yeah, I just assumed that from Hawaii to Guam it would be cheap because of that island rate. And I checked it out; it's like $2,000, man. It's like,
Bro,
I was
nope.
fuck. Yeah,
Yep.
dude. So that wasn't in the future, man. But hey, that's awesome, man. And so I know you've been in Hawaii for the longest time, and now within the last couple years, man, you moved over to Las Vegas. What fueled the move to Las Vegas? Was it music, work, or
I think,
what fueled that move?
well, one, with work, I was given an opportunity, just to kind of venture off, grow, develop, as far as with my company. And truth be told, I work for Target. So
Okay.
now I'm a supposedly, I guess, a district, asset protection manager for the southern of Las Vegas and
Oh
Henderson
man.
area. So I cover those stores. But I've been working, for Target for a long time.
Yep.
But and I think it's one of those companies that have kind of yeah, it's definitely hard work, but it always gave me a fair share of work life balance where I could just navigate and balance out my music, my passion in that,
Yeah.
and still hustle and make bread, what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I got a house, I got to pay my income, and truth be told, with the music thing, it definitely compensates in some sense, but
Yeah.
you got to work hard for things that you would like or you need and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And hey, man, I love to you moved, you picked up your entire life, moved over to Vegas, but you're still quite active in the Vegas scene, man. So I love it that you're still doing shows and just killing it, man. Yeah,
Thank you, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I love too that you're also. It seems like you're the welcome party for all the other Hawaiian MCs that come out to Vegas and perform too, man. So
Yeah. Well, I
that's
mean, and the
great. That's
And
great.
the thing too with like with Vegas, it's like, you know, it it wasn't like a hard transition like comparison to like because I lived in Phoenix, right?
Okay.
Definitely like I think like one of the things was like, like maybe a challenge and difficulty was like, building rapport, making
Yeah.
a name for myself, like making music. Because when I was in Phoenix, I was just pretty much like remotely making music, but still repping Hawaii hip hop and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then when I was in Vegas, it was kind of like a easy transition because it was like, a lot of people refer Las Vegas as like the ninth island, because of like
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
Hawaii
Yeah.
residents, even Guam, like I
Right.
mean islanders in like, like just moving down. And a lot of the reasoning is just like, just like the affordability, of like, like cost of living and all
Yeah.
that stuff. But I feel like it was seamless, like, connecting the dots here. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a bigger, grander scale, but
Yeah.
it was easy for me to connect the dots, like
Yeah.
in some sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're quite interesting to me in terms of being a Hawaiian MC, and so in the Hawaiian hip hop scene, at least just as an outsider looking in, that the circle is quite tight, right? So
Hmm.
it's
Yep.
a lot stay within the Hawaiian circle. So I like that you branch out and you're doing stuff outside of that, man. So
Yeah.
we're gonna get into the work that you're doing with Digital Martyrs, but I love just like the melting pot that you're doing, right? In terms of like just fusing, right? Not just central to one scene. So it's
Yep.
pretty amazing that you're branching out and just connect. I just like it, man. The different groups all mixing up, man. So that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Hey, but with that, man, you mentioned some key people in terms of musical influences. Were there any major albums that just you popped the tape off of, or you spun the hell out of that CD when you were growing up? What were some
I mean,
favorites?
as far as like with like influences or like, top artists or albums that I was bumping, like, through my childhood and growing up, I think the most influential album to me, I mean, it's gonna be Illmatic. Like, I
Oof.
mean, like Nas has definitely been an like, big influence in my like my music and like, just like just the way like how he's grown as an artist. Because if you think about it too, Nas has started like at a very young age. They
Yeah.
built hype on him, sourced 5 mics and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But what I love about Nas is like how the utmost respect for him is that he's grown as an artist, the maturity, he's had really the highest of highs and to be
Mhm.
honest, lowest of lows,
Okay.
but now he's like there's no doubt about it. The dude's a goat. Like the dude's like greatest of all time and he's so relevant in some
Yeah.
sense. Like, you know what I mean? His old albums and how he hooked up with Hit Boy and
Yep.
like all that stuff, like it's so like inspiring to me because like
Yeah.
I want to say he's like 50 and whatnot. So
I don't
like
know. So
he's about that old,
yeah.
but he's still doing it and
Yeah.
his name still comes up within all
Yeah.
generations, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's a great point, man. And were you in I guess probably high school or maybe even earlier than that when you were first exposed to Illmatic, yeah?
Yeah, so
Oh
I
man.
want to say like my freshman year was when I was bumping
Okay.
like Illmatic. Yeah, cassette tape, man. Yep, in the Walkman. Yep.
So that was your introduction and just the start of the love for hip hop. And so did that eventually transition into you wanting to rap or make beats, or do you make beats, or is it just rapping?
So I started off like with the rapping, like in like because I was already like in like like I loved like poetry when I was a kid. So
Mhm.
like I would always like write like little like poems and whatnot, and then I started to just kind of dabble in like rhyme schematics, like just writing bars, which I
Yeah.
never thought at the time, but I was actually counting bars when I was like writing some of my stuff. And then later I think like, well, I started always as a rapper MC, and even, you know, like I think a lot of the heads like in Hawaii knew too, it was like I would enter into a lot of MC battles. So
Oh,
like I was getting into the battle bracket at the time, you know, won some, lost a lot, but I think
I
like,
feel,
but I
I
mean
feel you.
the truth be told, I mean like I feel like, you know, and I feel that's missing too with the you know, like with the craft and the art now, like with hip hop,
Yeah,
like, you know, like that battle, like, you know, that battle mentality and like how that started. Cause that for me, like that's how like my rhymes, my music content, everything that I've like, you know, dropped, you know, it stemmed from that battle
interesting.
era. And I feel like it helped me, you know, so
Yeah.
but yeah.
Hey, so I'm trying to frame, or at least find the time of reference. So, were you in terms of Hawaii hip hop? Were you part of like Cabot's timeline, or are you part more of like Osna's, which I think was a little bit after him? Where are you in that on that timeline?
So I feel like I started off like, well, even like yeah, like during the light sleepers era, like with Cavett,
Okay.
and then the high state family. So that's like Tasha Pierce, Flip the Bird,
Yeah.
which I actually was part of Flip the Bird. Um,
Nice.
you know, so with that era, and then with Osna, it was kind of the same timeline with Flip the Bird as well, because that was actually the time when I started to join up with Tasha Pierce.
Yeah.
Jimmy Taco at the time was with Pre. But yeah, like that was kind of the timeline. So it was kind of the placement where I was at was a good time because I felt
Yep.
like I got a little bit of like the underground feel, like,
Yeah.
and that era, and then
Yep.
eventually going, you know, like up, you know, with Flip the Bird and whatnot. So it was a good time, like, you know, being able
Yeah.
to be in those like two significant, I guess per se, like era.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, and I often hear about Tasho's name. So before the Light Sleeper, so was Tasho kind of like the one of the original Hawaii hip hop underground scene founders, or was it even way
yeah.
before that?
So and it's way before that, and you know, like, you know,
Oh,
I'm gonna be truth be told, like, you know, like I consider myself like one of, like, you know, like one of the Hawaii hip hop, like I guess pillars, like, you know, that has made the
absolutely,
movement, like, you know,
absolutely.
in the islands. But I still have yet to hear certain history like prior to Tasha Pierce. So Tasha Pierce is one of the significant guys to this day that a lot of the Hawaii hip hop artists or people that refer to Hawaii hip hop, like with history, Tasha Pierce's name will always be mentioned.
Yep.
But the interesting thing is that, like, you know, back in the 80s, there was guys like, you know, like Urban Joint, like this homie
Okay.
T, there's Big T's, like they kind of started some of that Hawaii
Yep.
hip hop stuff. There's a Hawaiian group called you know, Southern Rush that, you know, was
Okay.
pushing like, you know, Hawaii hip hop. And then also like what's cool is that even some guys like Jimmy Taco had like his own crew that had a lot of like rappers in that group, like, you know, back in the
I
80s
see.
that was pushing. So um I, you know, to this day, like I don't know when was the day one,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I know that there's definitely like, you know, some, you know, unrecognized, like, you know, artists that I feel like
Oh,
need to get like some of
absolutely.
that, you know, like we got to give them their flowers. But like, you know, I'm not one to say, but what I can say is that during my journey, I knew who was like the first people that kind of made me start, you know?
That's right. Yeah, and so my history in Hawaii hip hop is still only an inch deep, but you know, as I learn about it more, I definitely your name was definitely in that mix too as well. So I always heard about you performing. So unfortunately, I never got to catch you live, but yeah, I heard about that and yeah, those other cats that I mentioned too. So super dope,
Yeah.
man. Just
Yeah.
Hawaii or not Hawaii history, but hip hop history in general is always fascinating to me, and in every city, right? Because there's always pockets of people who represent. So that's awesome. Thank you for the inside look on that.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Okay, all right. So with that, you mentioned you listen to a little bit of hair band metal, man. But what about other types of music, man? Outside of rap, man. What are you digging?
I mean, by default, I think like a lot, like, you know, like, and maybe you can relate to this, but like
Yeah.
like a lot of like, like throwback 90s, like slow jam,
Mm.
like music. Go
Okay.
like the most sappiest,
Yeah.
like love,
Yeah.
like bro, like come on, like PC Quest. We
Yeah.
can go like we can go to like frick. I mean, I don't know, man. Like New Edition,
Yeah.
like so that kind of stuff like would be like some stuff that I was like listening to.
Yeah.
Um, but I think like just like I feel like with music, well, like let me take it back. Like especially being a hip hop head already instilled in me. Like what I mean with hip hop, like with beats and all that, it's almost like recycling certain samples, making
Sure.
certain beats out of it. So it's almost like instilled in a hip hop head's like mentality, like and the inspiration to hear other genres
Yeah.
because you can pick out sounds
That's
to
right.
create something that's going to be like like on a hip hop level. So for me, like i I listen to anything, like as long
Yeah.
as like like it it has some type of meaning, I mean, like, and to be honest, like it just depends on the mood, so
Yeah.
like
Hey, good point.
yeah, yeah,
But
so
R&B, man, I'm a big fan. Did you watch the Super Bowl halftime show?
you know what, unfortunately no,
Oh,
but I've
you gotta watch it.
but But I've heard about it. No, and the thing too is not it's not like I didn't want to watch it. I
Right.
think it's like the inner like like the internet and social media already showcased it. So I
Yeah.
I saw it over there. I mean, I saw the memes, I saw like just
Yeah.
everything else, like, but it looked extravagant. And I mean, like, like kudos to Usher, you know what I mean? The dude's like similar to even with Nas, like the dude's like been doing music since back in the day, and
Yeah.
he's still relevant,
For sure.
and he's still like busting out crazy shows, top notch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the dude, yeah, yeah, the dude hasn't aged. Like I feel like the dude's like part Asian.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
he's getting hooked up by the artists with some skincare. Like the dude's like, but
Oh,
I mean, like, yeah,
shit.
I mean, like, I heard like he had an amazing performance. I mean, by looking at it and seeing snippets, like the dude's great.
Yeah, I thought so too, man. Well, hey, you talked about just some of the producers that you dig. Are there any producers that were instrumental in terms of like maybe shaping the type of songs that you did? Who are some of your favorite producers?
You know what? I'm gonna, I know by default, I'm gonna like say like certain people that I still like still mess with to this day. Like I mean, like I can talk about like Jojo Flo, Osna,
Nice.
my homie Bombs. But if
Yeah.
there's gonna be anybody that's instrumental that I will say like I gotta give like props to is gonna be my man I Am Mike. Um, we were in the same crew called Direct Descendants. He was very instrumental of producing some of my albums back in the day, like Love Potion Cyanide,
Yep.
one of my first like I guess like big debut albums like coming out.
Okay.
Like he was very like instrumental in that. And I gotta give him his flowers, man. I mean that dude like
Nice.
produced like a couple songs like Flesh and Blood, Missing You, which like resonated through like a lot of like these Hawaii hip hop artists that are coming up. Like they
Yep.
knew me from those songs. So if it
Nice.
wasn't for him, I don't think I would be busting those like hit songs. So like I mean, kudos to I Am Mike.
Nice.
We haven't been in touch for a minute. I know that
Yep.
we still cool and all that, but like but yeah, I got to give him his flowers.
Yeah, he's still producing too as well.
I'm not sure. Like
Okay.
I think he does, but like and event and this is one thing too, like with the growth and like like how like you had homies a close circle and then
Yep.
you guys move, grow up and all that. It's kind of like that,
Yeah.
where in a sense like if I connect with him, it's like oh it's
No-
like back to like like the old days. It's not like anything different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
No love lost. Just as
yeah,
if yeah, it was like
yeah.
day two. Yeah.
I love the dude, and you know what I mean. Like, if that dude ever wanted to like produce something for me again, dude, I would more than happy do it. Like, you know what I mean. Like, I'll square that time away like for him. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Hey,
So
so with that, you mentioned the direct descendants, and I heard that referenced a lot during your Cyanide album. Can you tell me who was a part of that crew, Direct Descendants?
yeah, so with direct descendants, it was a couple of us guys like in the islands. Like what was cool is because we had two crews that were like from the east and west side of the islands, and then
Mm.
we eventually like connected together just because on some like similar taste in hip hop and the type of like music that we did, like it almost like just meshed well. So the guys that were in the direct descendants was Rise Up, Makepa, Jonah the Whale, you know,
Nice.
Seth One. Seth One was in that crew. uh I am Mike for sure was on, like, man, there's like so much members. It was like we were
Oh,
like,
got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we were like formulating the Wu-Tang, like I guess like the Hawaiian Island Wu-Tang at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, with the direct descendants, we just had like the similar goal, like to push Hawaii hip hop, to the fullest. So
Yeah, well, I'm excited too. I know that Cabot is doing all the interviews to document Hawaii hip hop, and
yeah.
so I look forward to when it gets to your timeline, man. That's a lot of
Oh,
cool stuff, man.
we'll see. We'll
Hey,
see.
man.
Shout out to Kevin. Shout out to Kevin. I'm definitely down, and I think just to touch upon that, on like what Kevin's doing, I really like appreciate, and like I think it's like a good thing for the scene, and not
Yeah,
only just like for the Hawaii hip hop scene, but just to educate just like like Hawaii in general, that
sure.
there is this like unseen, unheard, like culture, like Hawaii hip hop that was already like brewing back in the 80s, 90s, and like now, and like how instrumental and unseen of certain things that happened that made certain things pop today,
Yeah,
in the scene. So yeah.
that's a great point. And where were you performing in the late '90s or 2000s? Are any of those spots still open?
Oh my God. Like one of the places that I thought about was like, and I liked the venue because it was kind of grimy a little bit, like inside, but it was this place called Wave Waikiki. But
Uh,
now it's like it's a hotel that's built over it. Like they broke it all
uh,
down and all that. But that was like one of the places that would have like, bigger hip hop shows, like
okay.
and also even like local shows and acts. And that was like one of the venues that gave us like open door to like
Yeah.
do things there.
Super cool, man. Well, good, Ben. Hey, so just from a rapper perspective, I've always wanted to ask people this, but I saw that Rock the Bells recently declared "Shook Ones Part Two" as the best beat of all time. Do you agree, or is there another track that rivals that?
I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, I agree.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
my God, like Mob Deep's like infamous album, like is comparable to like what I was playing in rotation, just like Nas Illmatic. Because like the things that I can think of, like that albums that stick out, is Illmatic,
yeah,
the infamous
yep,
Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers for sure.
yeah,
But yeah, like I mean, like I feel like that whole album had like a whole bunch of like beats that
yeah,
was so, it catered to just, I mean, not only the fact that it was very like attracting to the ears of a lot of hip hop heads, but I
yeah,
feel like for freestyle MCs, like I feel like if you
yep.
drop
That's
like,
right. That's right.
yeah, like
Yes.
if somebody dropped Survival of the Fittest
Woo!
instrumental, like I feel like somebody would rap over.
Oh.
Yeah, like I always reference that album. Like what I mean. Like that whole album is like dope.
Yeah, I definitely I don't argue that one at all, man. But if I had to ask Creed Chameleon to pick two other beats that could qualify as two of the greatest beats of all time, what would you say? Instrumentals.
Whew. I would say I would say that's hard.
Yeah, you're right. That is
I
hard.
would
Yep.
I would say I would say what would be dope is New York State of Mind,
Oof.
like
Nice.
from Nas, and
Yeah.
then if we're gonna go on some like other like beat, whew, I mean, oh man, this is like hard to put me on the spot. Ugh. I
Yeah.
want to say that, and and I know like this one is not maybe like per se like in that era, but like try by 12, carry by
Ooh,
6. Yeah,
that's a
East
good
Flat.
one.
Yeah,
East
East
Flatbush
Flatbush.
Project. Oh, that is
Yeah,
good. That's
yeah,
good.
and actually to in our set with my crew DotWav, we actually use that instrumental as in the middle of our set where we bust
Yeah.
like super hard verses on it. So yeah.
Dude, that's a good one. And I cheated, man. I had time to think about the question before asking you, right?
No
So
worries.
so I have two. I want to see what you think, man. One I thought
Okay.
was the I Got Five on It by Loonies. I like that one a
Oh,
lot. And then
okay.
yeah, just when you hear that, you know. And the other one is 93 Till Infinity, right? Maybe. It's,
Oh, yes.
yeah. But Tried by 12 is a good one, man. I forget about that one. That is good.
Yeah, 93 Till Infinity will always be that classic beat, and it's so crazy. I feel like with 93 Till Infinity, it's such a dope beat, like where I hear a lot of MCs will try to rap on it. Like, like an
Woo!
example would be J. Cole did Justice on
Yes.
that beat, like when he freestyled. Um, but it's like one of those beats that I'm like, it's hard for me to freestyle over it because there's so much like it makes me end up like rapping like Souls of Mischief verses, like you know what I mean, like on it, like I end up
Yes.
like I'll end up saying 93 till or like that's a 7 digits, call the Bridget, like you know what I mean, like it just like it makes me already think of that cadence, but
Yeah.
but I love that track and I love
Uh,
that beat, like the
that's a good
production is
point,
dope.
man. And I've always wanted to do like just something where I'm jacking for beats, but yeah, that one too that
Yeah.
seems untouchable, man, for some reason.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, hey, man, good responses, man. Now I want to know. It's one of my favorite questions to ask guests, man. The story behind your name. You got a super cool MC name. How did that happen?
Well, it was like I think like twofold like story. So like the name Creed, like it was a derivative or it was from like this name Victor Creed, which
Hmm.
is if you follow like like Marvel comics, like Sabertooth, his real name was Victor Creed.
Oh shit!
And yeah,
Sick.
and with Sabertooth, like back in like when I was in elementary, like I had a mean underbite, and of course braces helped, so thank you mom and dad. But but what happened was like when I was a kid, like a lot of kids would tease me, like you look like a
Oh
saber-tooth tiger,
shit!
saber-tooth
That's
tiger.
wild.
And then like I kind of took that and like kind of was like, you know what, like fuck it, like I'm gonna name like name myself like after the real name because it was in the midst of when Wu-Tang, I think it was like Raekwon's like Only Built for Cuban Links album, where
Okay.
they're starting to do AKAs,
Yep.
and then they had like like so Method Man was Johnny Blaze,
Yep.
so then my original rap name was Victor Creed back in the day.
Oh shit! That is
So
crazy.
and then like of course like like through journey of hip hop, like I was like, you know what, like it sounds too Wu-Tang-ish, like so then like one of my boys, like I think one day was like just telling me like hey like and it was one of those times like we were just like like all faded and all that, and he said like it's like, oh bro, like I know who you're like you're Amakua, or like your guardian angel animal, and it's the Chameleon. And I'm like, the Chameleon? He's like, yeah, because you can adapt, like to your environment and all that stuff. And I was like, at the time I was like what the hell are you saying, bro, you know but then I started to kind of like listen in more and
Yeah.
like kind of like repeat it in my head. Like I felt like it resonates, and like even to this day, like I feel like with beats and music, like I feel like I'm able to be adaptable to
Ah.
like certain production and whatnot, but and not
Yeah.
also that in well-being, like or like in where I'm living at. So like I lived in Phoenix, I lived at a time like where I lived in the Bay for a moment, East Coast,
Yeah.
um, and now in Vegas, and it's more relevant nowadays because I feel like like I can adapt to my environment, like truly adapt to my environment.
Oh, I
So
like that, man. And yeah, I noticed that too in your style too, man. I like the way that you deliver the verse in the raid in the
oh,
song that
nice.
yeah, yeah. So it's like the double time. Da, da, da. I was like, dude, he like fucking like jumped on that beat, man, like very nicely, man. And you do that
Well,
a
I
lot.
mean, and to be honest, like I wasn't even, I had no intention to do it like that. It was because during that track or creation,
Yeah.
like my boy Benny Digital, like which is a dope MC, like out of our crew, he
Yeah.
double timed. So then for me, I was just like, all right,
Yeah.
motherfucker, you want to do it like that? So I gotta, I had to like step up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I
and
like
that's
your
and
delivery.
and yeah, and that's what's cool about the crew. Like, my crew DotWav, it's like we have like a lot of dope MCs and artists in our crew. And what I love about it is the whole like iron sharpens iron mentality.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
feel like that, to be honest, with my crew, I cannot thank them enough because it brought a lot of like sense of fire, passion, and youth in
Yeah.
me. Because
Are they all from Hawaii or no?
yeah, so with DotWave, which is crazy, is a lot of us all have island roots, with the exception of Benny Digital. Benny Digital, homie, lives in the east side of Vegas. Like, he's been in
Okay.
Vegas for a long time.
Okay.
But what's crazy about the wave or DotWave is that all of us have Hawaiian ties and or island ties, and we have like a lineage or some type of like tap into the Hawaii hip hop culture and history. An example, Bombs has been an MC in Kalihi for like numerous years.
Yep.
Moved out to Vegas, still represents Hawaii hip hop,
Oh shit.
and
Okay.
and he's like relevant to a lot of the Hawaii hip hop artists. Like they still fuck with him. Like they still want to like do collabs with him. He's still
Yeah.
considered
Bombs
like
is dope.
yeah, like a he is a pillar in some sense, like like
Yeah.
in his own right in Hawaii hip hop history. And then we got guys like Ken Francis,
Okay.
is from my city in Waipahu, that's been rapping and like been doing like music on the underground level.
Yeah.
And he's came up with like a couple of tracks, and now he has a bigger like avenue where he's with us and pushing it on a higher level. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's
And
he's in Hawaii or in Vegas too.
yeah, he's in Vegas right now, Ken Francis. Yeah, and he's
Crazy.
got a clothing line like called something out of nothing soon. So like
Sick.
with him, and then you got a homie Paradigm, which his dad was in the same crew and same like like I guess like that era with Jimmy Taco rapping. So
Older
yeah,
generation. Yeah.
his name is Danny R.
Okay.
And he came up, and so Paradigm actually like grew up through like Hawaii hip hop, like like when he was a kid.
Crazy, man.
Then you got Jojo Flow.
Okay.
He's 18 or 19. I'm sorry, Jojo, if I mistaking your age, but
Of age.
his dad is Cutmaster Spaz.
Okay.
So and Cutmaster Spaz is one of the original like OGs like in like the Hawaii hip hop like era, like as far as like like being one of those prominent DJs like up there. So like he's
Yeah.
done a lot.
Nice.
And then of course me, like just being part of like Hawaii hip hop in general.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because like we're making moves so much like in Vegas
Yeah.
and beyond and whatnot, and like we all came from the islands in some sense.
Yeah. And whose idea was it to put this super group together? Nice. All right. Hey,
But it was funny because it was like a vision of mine.
Okay.
Like years, like like a few years ago before I came to Vegas, and we all hung out and we connected the dots here, which is crazy. Is because like Ken, like an example would be Ken Francis lived in the same city as me, and we never really connected on the island. We crossed paths, but we didn't really connect in the island. But when I moved to Vegas, and he's been here for a moment, like we connected dots here, we networked, and then we eventually became like friends. Like we would hang out, but with that whole slew of like like artists and friends, like we are all making like music, collaborating. We would get people to feature
Nice.
our production, and I was doing like my own thing, but I would get them to be featured on some of my stuff. And then I was just like, you know what, man, like we should just make a crew, or like, like why not, like, like, because I feel like if we all get together and just combine our powers, like I feel we can conquer a lot.
I
and
love it, man. I love
and
it.
I and the crew is like self-sufficient. We got all our videos, production, sound engineering, graphics, clothing, it's all in-house. So a lot
Nice.
of things are all like from the crew. Like if I got to get a music video done, I
Yep.
get Bombs to do it. If I
Nice.
need to get Ken, or not Ken, but or like a logo done, or flyer, or
Yeah.
like a shirt, like for merchandise, I got my boy Ken,
That's it,
to
man.
work on that. And then music wise, we got producers galore, like in our camps. We're like a self-sufficient crew is definitely a blessing.
That's
um
the best.
but yeah, and that's why we formulated a crew, DotWav.
Hey, who came up with the group name, and what's the origin of or what's the backstory of DotWave?
So DotWav, like it was, so one thing, like like, and you being an artist and like in the music, like the highest compression like file is you got to make it in .wav format, right?
That's it. Yeah,
So
I
so
thought it might be. Yeah,
so .wav is like the highest format of like like quality, right? So like I
dude,
think
that's great.
we
Oh,
were,
that's dope.
and that's how we are. Like we want to push the highest quality of music and artistry to the masses. But then when you think about the wave, you think about the ocean, right? Like
Yeah,
as a current.
yeah,
And when you like with waves and currents, like it all flows like the ocean. Like, and if you mess with the wave, you can either drown or get wiped out. So that's like the whole
dude.
analogy of the wave, and also the fact that we all are like islanders
Yep.
in some sense. So the wave always comes back to the ocean. So like we all move like the ocean, we all move in the same current. And that's why like when we
Dude.
drop things, we're cohesive, we're all together. Like even though we have solo projects, we got little mini group projects, it'll
Yep.
always come back to the wave.
I love
So
it, man.
if we do a performance and you see a Cree Chameleon, like let's say like somebody puts Cree Chameleon, whatever, like the wave will always be part of it. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So
Hey,
yeah.
that's great. I love just the multiple meanings behind it. Super dope, man. Just everything from dot wave being the highest quality file, not dot mp3, dot wave, man.
Yeah.
And then the tie to just the Hawaiian roots, man. That's great, man. Makes me appreciate
Yeah.
the name even more. And I hope you
Yeah,
guys
man.
put your stuff out on physical copies, man. Just really great albums, man, that I enjoyed. So
Yeah. Well, more to come on some merch. Like, potentially we're gonna be dropping like hopefully soon, like on some like, like vinyl and all that stuff. Cause like that's something like, that's missed,
yeah,
like in the culture nowadays. Like everything is like, scan my QR code, like which
yep,
we do, because a lot, the accessibility and the ease of people to get to the music. But I
yeah,
think like the physical, the tangible, like project itself, like I feel that's missed.
yeah,
um
absolutely.
and we got to bring that back up. So
Yeah, I agree, man. I'm a big collector of music, so I always like owning the physical copy, man. So good.
yeah.
Well, good, man. Hey, you mentioned that, hey, you guys could travel probably further with combining your efforts. And so how's the hip hop scene in Vegas, man? Do you like it? It's probably more opportunities than what you had in
Oh yeah,
Hawaii, right?
way more opportunities. And I feel like we've tapped into the point where like we could do shows whenever we feel like,
Yep.
and I feel like like the Vegas scene has been very supportive. And
Okay.
the one thing too is like I have yet to tap into like you know a lot of the artists here that's been doing it. And the one thing that I will say and whatnot, like of course with hip hop culture, the braggadocio, like like essence of like being like we're gonna be on top, we're gonna be on top. Yeah, we want to push that because that's like the mentality we have. Like like nothing personal, but we want to like take over. We want to be on the top, right?
Yep.
But one thing I will say is that I think like even with you know, what's instilled as far as like being from the islands, being, you know, Filipino, like, you know, and whatnot. It's like the whole theory of like, you enter in a house, right? Like if I go to your house, I take off my shoes. I greet myself like, oh, hi, I'm, you know, I'm Creed, like, and whatnot. Like, and you got to respect who owns the house and who's been there. So it's the same thing like with Vegas. Like, yeah, we come off like that, but I think like the one thing too is like I always am like interested on hearing and seeing who the artists are and kind of like, you know, just being respect because they're the ones who's been doing it here, like, you know, me for like numerous years or decades. And if anything, we're not trying to take it away from them. If anything, like we want to help. And if there's any way to help to push that, you know, that level, like, then yeah, let's do it. You know what I mean? And the biggest thing for me is like one thing that changed as far as my mentality goes recently, like from like, I think like, just like with my music itself, like there's very little where I'm repping a certain state, city, like, you know, like where like, yes, I will share certain like roots, my foundation, like now I'm in Sin City, you know, originally from the 808, Waipau and all that stuff. But I feel like where I've grown, like living in Vegas is like, I represent hip hop.
Nice.
No matter what, like, you know what I mean? The culture is going to be there. I'm going to represent Filipino American, you know, like culture. I'm going to represent my roots back to the Philippines from my family. Like, you know, me being from the islands. Now I'm in Sin City, but in all essence, everything is going to be all stem from hip hop. And, you know, like now I've grown as an artist to be like, I am a hip hop artist.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's something that like, I'm still focusing on.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because the stigma of like, you know, like, oh yeah, like, you know, like he's Hawaii hip hop. Like, you know, like, yes, no, I appreciate that for sure. Like, you know, I am part of it, like of that history, but there's so much artists now in Hawaii that need that recognition, like that need that, like they are Hawaii hip hop. This is Hawaii hip hop.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying it, like I'm not saying I was a has-been or whatever, but I was, you know what I mean? And I think I want to give the flowers to the people that are coming up now. Like some of the guys that come up is like, you know, Devin Chef, 808, you know, guys like TKO, like all these younger guys that are coming up and they're making a name for themselves. Like those guys are Hawaii hip hop.
I love it.
Or even guys like Osna and, you know, still doing it over there, like Angry Locals, Mox and Crystal, shout out to them.
Yeah.
They're still doing it. That's Hawaii hip hop.
Yeah.
That's for me, like, you know, like I you know, I appreciate it and, you know, the camaraderie and respect and all that stuff. But like, you know, like kudos to them. That's Hawaii hip hop. For me, like my goal is just like, you know, I want to be up there as far as like a Hawaii, like a hip hop artist.
Yeah.
Making it. And, you know, I'll never forget where I came from, but like, that's my focus.
But just, yeah, I got you, man. So no label attached. Just, hey, hey, man, I'm a rapper and I'm up there, right? Not the, just, hey, he's just confined to one scene or whatever, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got that, man. That's natural growth, man. And I love that. So, and I especially, like, as you were telling that story, it made me flash back to the Rhymefest LA poster that just came out.
Yeah.
So I saw the DotWav on the bottom, and I like it. I like the way that you progress, and I agree, man. Just you progressing is, it's been nice, man, watching you break out of your shell. As I mentioned earlier, and I hinted to that earlier in the interview too, was that you're starting to break out in your shell. So I anticipate in the next year or so that I see your name higher on that Rhymefest LA flyer.
We'll see. We'll see.
With that, man, I wanted to just quickly take it back to 2006 and just quickly talk about Love Potion Cyanide. Was that your first album, hard copy, or?
Yeah, that was like my official like hard copy release. I've made projects before, but of course back then it was like burn CDs. We would make our own like, you know, like cover and all that stuff. But like Love Potion Cyanide was like my first album that was physically in stores like Borders, Tower Records.
Nice.
It was on iTunes, you know what I mean? Like, so that was my first official release. Yeah.
Okay. Cool, man. What were you going through in life, and just what were you thinking as you were putting that first project? I mean, it's always a pretty stressful thing, I think, as an early MC, your first project. So what was going through your mind when you were putting that project together?
Man, that album, like, I feel like it was a culmination of like maybe 2 years of me writing, and there was a
Nice.
lot of like, during that time, like coming up in the scene, right? But personally, like I was going through a lot of hardship.
Okay.
I think like, being a father, single father at the time, like, going through a lot of obstacles and struggles, like
Okay.
working 3 jobs, getting fired,
Yeah.
for no reason, like, like, so things like were difficult at the time. But I feel like with hip hop too, and you can relate to this, I feel like it's like that struggle mentality piece. And like I feel like it resonates, and it's easier to like pen it out like with lyrics, because I feel like I could express myself. And with music, it's like, like I use it as like it's my diary, you know what I mean? It's my
Yeah.
musical diary, like that I
That's great.
express. And then I saw like a lot of people, fall victim to certain like, like epidemics, like, I know like the meth epidemic in Hawaii is very, very strong. I feel like it's still one of like the top drugs that a lot of people fall victim to
Sure.
in the islands. And I myself was like an addict at one point. Like I was going through a struggle with like drugs and like drinking and like and getting into like a lot of bad habits.
Yeah.
And like, but I expressed it all in that album, Love Potion Cyanide. And the reason for Love Potion Cyanide was because with like, and truth be told, like a lot of like the music that I do is like, they consider it like emo hip hop,
Yep.
because like it's very emotional with the way that I rap. Like, sometimes it's in connotation to relationships.
Yep.
But the love, so that would be like the love potion piece. But then the cyanide was that there's some like, things that are pretty like hard to swallow that I mentioned in my, like in my album. Like there's certain like things that I called out like in the album, like, at the time. And, but I feel like that album was like one of those things like that, started my growth and like,
Yeah.
creating albums and how that structure looked like. And it's crazy because like it was well received in the hip hop scene. It also got like a nomination for like a Hawaii award, like the Nahoku Hoku like award, like, for like,
Nice.
best like hip hop album. I
Yeah.
didn't win, which is fine, but it was like nominated. And
Yeah. Absolutely.
I feel like that bridged a lot of opportunity for some of the hip hop artists that was doing some of the stuff that I was doing, and they're winning. So like, big ups to my boy Naveed from like Super Groupers, back in Hawaii.
Yeah.
He won the Nahoku like award. So like, I mean, like props to him. And
Yeah.
I feel like there's much more Hawaii hip hop artists now that have like, like risen to the occasion and, won, that award.
Yeah. Is that the same award that Puna won a couple times?
Yeah, Punahele won. Yeah. And, and shout out to him, because I mean, for him, the dude, like, like I was seeing him, and we were like in the same circle of friends that were
Yeah.
in the, MC battle bracket, and the dude's a beast.
Yeah.
And,
Is he
like,
younger?
yeah, he's younger than me. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly his age, but I know
Yeah.
that significantly, like he's like a younger generation, but
Yeah.
the dude's like, moving the needle, like, like pushing, a lot of like topics, hot topics in Hawaii, like,
Yeah.
that are not like, like being mentioned, and he addresses them. So, shout out to him, because I know that he gives a lot to the community.
Yeah. Definitely.
But yeah, like look at him. He won an award, like, which
Yeah.
back in the day, when my time, you would never see that, and so kudos to him
Yeah.
and the rest of the like the Hawaii pop scene that are like being nominated and being considered in that bracket,
Yeah. Hey man, I love the story behind the title, and I thought, I wanted to bring it up because you did a part two, so I was like, man, there must be, a lot of significance to that Love Potion Cyanide name. So, yeah.
And I think like with Love Potion Cyanide Part 2, it was just the maturity,
Yeah.
like of like the music piece. But the other thing was that during that time, that was COVID. Like, like when I started like creating that album, that was like COVID time. And I was going through a lot of stuff, like,
Yeah.
that time, like, like people dying, like,
Mhm.
like, even personally, like in my mental state, like, I'm like, man, is this gonna end? Like, is this the end of like, like me making music, you know, like, is this just gonna stop? Like, I had like a lot of thoughts in my head of like, where am I supposed to be? And then also too, it almost put me in a sense of where I was being self-aware of myself,
Sure.
of like things that, you know, like I shouldn't, you know, put it too hard on myself, and things that I know that, you know what, I'm gonna focus and I'm gonna keep doing this.
Nice.
And like, you know, like almost like, you know, just like showcasing some of the stories that, you know, that I've like accomplished through the years, and like just kind of combined it in one, and then almost kind of set you know, set precedents of like what's to come. So
Yeah.
that album was kind of like a segue to like all these like projects like Ballet Song 29,
Yep.
DotWav, new stuff I'm working with, Digital Martyrs. It all kind of like
Mm.
aligned, you know? So
Yeah, most definitely. And I have to shout out a couple songs real quick that I really enjoyed from part one, Flesh and Blood, Supply and Demand, and A New Dawn. My
yeah,
favorite tracks on that record, man. So
thanks,
super
man.
dope. Yep. And then part two, 2021. And so you mentioned the reason for doing that, but I thought, whew, man, you really set that project off with the longevity song. Oh my God, that freaking song was
Thank
like
you.
a perfect first song to an album. Who did the production for that beat?
Yeah, so my boy Riff, he's actually in the Big Island right now. So shout out
Okay.
to Riff. The homie, actually, he's part of Direct Descendants.
Okay.
So what's cool about that album was that that's the reason why too. It almost kind of full circle. I got people that I was messing with during that era, and I brought them back. So like shout
Nice.
out to Riff. There's even a song with Kali that I got on
Yeah.
there. Yeah, so that one was produced by my man Mainframe,
Okay.
which he was part of, like, you know, with myself and Tasha with Flip the Bird.
Got it.
So and he used to do this thing called Curators of Hip Hop, where he did a documentary like of me, Pre. I think Tasha was on there. Logic was on that one before Logic even blew up. So like, but a lot of like production there, and
He's
then there was even Scott Hall. Like, there's a song with me, O Snizzle, and
bombs.
Bombs.
Yep.
But soon after that, me and Bombs made Vale Song 29. So there was like a lot of like
Yeah.
past, present, what's to come, like future
I like
stuff.
it.
So like, yeah,
Yeah, and actually, you mentioned Scott Hall. That was one of my favorite songs from the album. And then Cruising. And then you actually made me laugh, man, because Smile was another song that I like. And so
yeah,
I get often categorized as that too, or yeah. I mean, I've embraced it though, emo hip hop, right? And so
yeah,
I'll write about that stuff too. And so on my notes, I was like, yeah, it's a dope love song, and I noticed you were good at that as I went through your catalog. So it's funny that
yeah.
you identify with that too as well. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and that was like one thing too, is like with that track, and then shout out to my boy Danny, who did this. But with that track, like I was trying to make like a lo-fi feel
okay.
to it, you know, and you know, shout out to Zal too. Like he's now in LA, but he was like a Vegas artist out here that, you know, super talented. The dude can sing, and he can rap, but he was able to like lace that chorus for me, like, you know, like the really dope, perfect, and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So
So I will say you're very good at love songs too, man. Fucking talented.
I try. I haven't done one for a minute, but yeah.
Okay. Well, hey man, so you brought up Balance from Digital Martyrs, and I saw the Trauma video, which I really enjoyed. How was the connection between you and Digital Martyrs made?
I feel like it connected, and maybe I might be wrong if, you know, like, you know, Darnell could tell me otherwise, but I think how we connected was through like, you know, with him producing with some of the artists that I was looking up to, and then I started, you know, working with, like, it was like Bamboo, you
Yep.
know, like Geo, and I feel like that was like that connecting point.
Yep.
And then, you know, Darnell and I started just to kind of link up and chat. And
Yep.
it's been long overdue because we've been wanting to work on music, but
Yeah.
I've worked with him through like the, you know, like with the connection with Kali,
Yep.
Uptown Suite,
Yep.
like those guys, like, you know, me being able to insert myself in, you know, dropping a verse on their track. But it was like one of those things like, man, freaking get a Digital Martyrs like, project or like, song out, like at least. And
Yeah.
one day we just kind of like, linked up, just kind of talked on like, IG, like I
Yeah.
think I may have slid on his DM, I don't know, but like and then we just started connecting the dots. He started sending me beats, and I just like, started lacing them. And we're working on something that we're gonna be dropping, like, possibly an EP, but I got a single that's gonna be dropping soon, maybe in March,
Okay.
with him. So more to come with that one. That one I'm excited for because it was like one of my best, tracks that I've worked with him yet. So I think like, I'm excited with for that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Darnell, man. He's super dope. Is your album done with him then, or is it in the works?
We're in the works right now because I think there's like maybe a few songs that just need to get like mixed down and all that. And like for me, I want to make sure that it's strategic in the way that we drop it. Because now I have to like be like, courteous and respectful in the fact that I got a crew now.
That's right.
And I just got to make sure that it's not going to hinder or interrupt the flow,
the timing,
the fluidity. Yeah, the fluidity of like what we do. And again, we're like a wave, right? Like, so like we can like, like be smooth with the current of what we're doing. And some days we'll freaking like hit you with a tidal wave with releases and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that. He's got a lot of good stuff lined up. My album with him is done too, so I can't wait to get that out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I gotta hear that, man.
It's gonna be exciting, man. He's super talented, man. I really enjoy his stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so with that, hey man, you also mentioned Bali Song 29, which I really like, man. That was between you, Bombs, and Ken Francis. And so now you guys, that's part of the tidal wave that you mentioned. But as I mentioned earlier, man, I want to see all this stuff in physical form because I want copies of it, man. But I got to shout out the intro, right? I don't know if it's the first song, but it was the Fob Dad,
Tricycle. Yeah, Tricycle.
Yeah. Was that who was that? Did you find that online?
Oh no, that shout out to Ken Francis, man, for that. Yeah. So he does a very good, like him and Bombs do very great, like like Tito, like like accents. Yeah. And those guys are freaking hilarious. But yeah, Ken Francis did it. And I think like with that song, I think what I loved about it too was with Vale Song 29, like I feel like the reason why I love the album is because like one, I want to showcase and push, Filipino American like culture and stuff, but and then not to knock on it, but like, like there was always this stigma of like, like when, Filipino, like, artists like try to do something like an example with hip hop, some people would always say like, oh, it's kind of cheesy. They'll reference like Andrew E, like, like in that sense. And it wasn't like represented fully to its highest potential. And a good example of like artists that have done it really well and have like strong following is like Bamboo, like Rocky, like, like Ruby Ibarra, all those artists, like, have done it well. Like, and for me, I just had like a difficulty, like, like trying to like, like push that on a solo tip, like, like with the name, Chameleon, and, always established it as like Hawaii hip hop, for a while. Yeah. And with Vale Song 29, it was dope because we connected the dots with like, with myself, Bombs, Cam Francis, and pushed it. But we wanted to just come out like, because this is the thing, right? Everybody has done it. Like, like Ruby has done it. Bamboo has done it. They pushed it to the envelope of representing the culture, right?
Yeah. 100%.
So for us, what we wanted to do was that we wanted to showcase our inspirations, our influences, but come harder. Like, like, so if you listen to that album, it's very like, it's very hardcore.
I like it.
A lot of profane language. It's like, like almost kind of like you got to come bars hard with it. Like, so we wanted to kind of set, like set us in a different pedestal. Yeah. In that sense, like where we're pushing, Filipino American, like, culture and hip hop, but then also come with that hardcore essence with it, because that's what we love, because an example would be like, Bombs is very influenced by like, like Eminem, 50 Cent. That's his like era. Ken Francis, he's like very like in tune to like guys like Blue, like Most Def, like, and then for me, like it's a culmination of all that because I listened to all of it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I came from like the Nas, Illmatic, Wu-Tang, like like. So then all of us combined, we just created this album, and like with all our different influences and inspirations, like we just created this album. So
yeah, fucking Bali Song is a hard ass name, bro. I like it.
yeah, and the reason why with the Bali Song, and shout out to my man Spell, Light Sleepers, like
Oh,
he's
Spell did it. Oh
so
wow.
Spell. So the conversation was that like because he liked how me and Bombs were like making tracks together, and
Yeah, I like
he
that
was
combo
like,
too.
yeah, he was like, hey, dude, like you guys should call your guys Bale Song, and I was like, and the more that it was repeating in my head, like I was thinking like, man, that's dope because it's almost like, and the reason why with the whole hardcore delivery and going bars deep with tracks, it's like with a Bale Song, it's like it looks super beautiful, like when you're like manipulating the blade, playing with it, right? It's like it looks like a dance almost, like it looks beautiful, like what I mean, it's like art, but if you come close, you'll get cut.
That's right. I mean? Dude, that's dope, man. You're very good at the double meanings.
Yeah, so then that's where like I was like, okay, I love it, like and it represents our culture, but then also like how we are with our music, what I mean? Everything's hard, it's beautiful, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's beautiful, but it's like it comes hard, you know what I mean? So
I like it, man. Well, hey, with that, man, hey, I enjoyed the raid video that you guys did. I said, man, damn, these guys are fucking running for the whole video and rapping. Super fun ass video. Where did you guys shoot that video at?
So we did it at Prim, like it's like kind of like the outskirts of the city. We went to kind of like this mall. It's not, and the mall is not. It's not closed down, but for some reason, there's only like 2 shops that are open there, and it's almost kind of like, it looks abandoned.
Perfect.
But there's a lot of dope like graffiti that's inside. Not even on some like whack throw ups that they would do, like actual like nice pieces that are like all around the mall. If you've never been to Prim, like I would highly suggest it just to even take a look at some of the art. But we were able to like coordinate and like direct the video there, and it ended up being dope. And props to Bombs and just the rest of the crew, because I'll let you know one thing too about that video is that all of it was on the fly. It wasn't, we were thinking as we went, like, and how the story was gonna be, how this was gonna get incorporated. Dope, so just props to the whole fam, like, yeah,
well done, man. I recommend for everybody to go see that video. Super dope. Yeah, and so with that, hey, you just the projects they keep coming. You got the Digital Martyrs project coming, and then you just finished that one with Right Now, based out of Japan. The I can't remember. It's No Better Time Than Now. On this name. So I enjoyed that, and then you had that verse on there. I can't remember if it was like a flip of the Biggie verse or Little C's verse, but I heard you do that the verse, right? That's fucking cool, man.
Pain. Pain. With my boy Devin Chef, who's a highly skilled like emcee out of the islands, like in Hawaii. Like you gotta like check out his music, Devin Chef. Like he's gonna be one of the artists like that's gonna be blowing up on the island. So for sure.
I love it. Yeah, Put It On was great, man. All right, so with that, what motivates you to still do music? You've been in the game for a long time. What is fueling that love for it to make more music?
I think like one thing was like, as I reflect back in the day, because there was a point where like I was thinking like, man, I'm gonna just have to close the book, like stop this because it's not getting anywhere. But I thought to myself like, you know what, man, like I still have that drive. It's like it's unexplainable, the passion that I have for this music. I can't explain it. Like to this day, like I just love doing it. And if I feel like I can't do music, like I end up being grumpy, like, like I'm like a whole mess. Like it's almost like how people like relate to like they gotta exercise, they gotta train, they gotta do all these type of like things just to balance their mentality. And I feel
Yeah.
like with music, it's always been like, therapeutic for me. And,
Nice.
and through the years, like, now like I'm in my 40s, like I'm like, like thinking like in the sense of like I might as well just bang out shit
Yeah.
now while I still can.
That's
Like
right.
it's one of those things like I'm gonna keep holding to the momentum until I can't. And I will be like, like very critical with myself,
Okay.
as the years go, but I feel like I can't stop and there's no way of stopping me. Like I'm like at a point where like my mentality is like it's a go go go. Like
Yeah.
even at a point where a lot of people like people would probably laugh at me when I was like, I'm gonna do like a locals only headlining like festival in Hawaii back home. They're like, really though? But because like not that much people are gonna show up, there's no headliner or whatever. And we did it. Like last year, we packed out a show at Next Door, like
I missed.
very successful festival. And even like things like where I'm like I just like say it to existence, like like I'm like, hey, we're gonna go to LA, and we're gonna be doing this, this, and this, and we did it, And now shows are aligning. Like we're on Rhymefest. We got a couple shows that are gonna be happening in Arizona. We have yet to be doing like some shows in the Northwest, so like there's gonna be more to come. And then maybe like like there's a possibility Japan and Philippines. So like there's things that are aligning. And yeah, like it's just like I feel like the momentum's there, and I'm still moving with it. And as long as the like my crew and my wave, the wave is like moving accordingly, like we all can attain that.
Yeah.
So,
hey, great, man. I look forward to all that, man. Just make it manifest. I'll be cheering you guys on.
Hell yeah, man.
Okay. Well, hey, with that, let's move into the fun portion of the interview, man. I left these questions off on purpose, trying to catch you on the fly.
Okay.
All right. Hey, you haven't been in Vegas too long. Has it been 2 years or more than that? How long have you been there now?
I've been here for almost 4 years. Actually.
Oh shit, man! My timing is off, man. That's
no
still
worries.
a relatively short time. All right, where's the best place to get your poke on Oahu?
Woo! Oahu, bro. People are gonna hate me when I say this, but nah, you know what? I'm gonna say like one that I will say is a staple. I'm gonna say Tanioka's.
Ah, dude, I like that.
Tanioka's. Yeah, we gotta keep Waipahu there. You know what I mean? Keep it on the west side. Hell yeah.
All right, best place for a mixed plate on the island.
Whew. Damn, put me on the spot. Okay, mixed plate. If we're talking about just mixed plate in general, like the token mixed plate like that you would get at L&L's or whatever, it would be for me. I hate to say it, man, Zippy's.
Oh,
I like the mixed plate there.
Loyalist, I love it, man.
Yep. But if we're talking about just like Hawaiian plates in general, like and whatever, like mixed plate type stuff, like I'm gonna say Highway Inn.
Oh, that's a good choice, man.
Yeah, Highway Inn. Yeah.
That actually should be what I should say in this next question, man. All right, the question I had for you was Aiea Bowl or Rainbow Drive-In?
Woo! You know what's funny that I'm gonna say this and you're gonna be like, what? I've never ate at Rainbow Drive-In.
Oh shit! All right, so Highway Inn then.
Yeah, Highway Inn. But I'll say Aiea Bowl is actually pretty dope. Like
it is, man.
I feel like the oxtail soup is dope. Like that, I'll say, and I want to say like their garlic chicken.
Yeah.
Or like
chicken, man.
Oh, all day, man, all day.
Okay, what about if you put Aiea Bowl against Highway Inn, man?
I'm gonna say Highway Inn. The reason why like I love Highway Inn is there's like Hawaiian food is like something that like I've grown up to eat and whatnot, and Highway Inn is always like that one like staple restaurant that always is consistent.
Okay.
It never was like we're like, oh man, like it's not tasting the same as before. It always stayed the same. Okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even though like they branched out, they got more restaurants, right? But yeah, Highway Inn all day.
Okay. All right, man. This next one, you got to justify it. Spam or corned beef?
Whew. Man, where's the Vienna sausage in there? Like,
Oh, that you're right.
nah, just kidding.
You're right.
I mean, I'll say this, like, because both of those canned goods were always like in our cabinets, like
Yeah.
growing up. Oh, that's so hard, man. And it's, you know why it's difficult? Because that's always been like something like it's either spam or corned beef that we had for breakfast, and then we recycled it to make it for lunch and all that. So I'm gonna say spam, bro.
Okay, nice.
Spam.
I'm not mad at that, man. That's good. All right, and so this next question I always ask all my New York MCs, man, but I gotta hear it from somebody out of Hawaii, man. On
Okay.
pizza, is pineapple acceptable on pizza?
No.
Wow, man, really?
Okay. My girl loves pineapple on pizza, but man, take that shit out, bro. Like, fuck it. We can put it in like some fucking like marinated in some like, you know, like al pastor, like, you know, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But I just not digging the pineapples, bro. Like on the pizza.
Funny. All right.
But to each his own. To each his own.
My New York rappers will be happy, man, to hear that. All right. Hey, with that, any special projects that you want to just highlight before we close this amazing interview out, man?
Yeah, so I mean, like, I'm gonna be dropping like a video and a single produced by Digital Martyrs pretty soon.
Nice.
It's featured Lumi Cools is on there, another like, you know, film artist, but he's from the Bay. I've actually done some tracks with him, like, you know, like on my album.
Nice.
Also, DotWav is gonna be dropping a new album coming up, so stay tuned. We got some special features. It's gonna be very, very interesting album. It's gonna be what I love about it is the growth of it, and how us as like hip hop artists have like, you know, kind of like influenced one another. So you're gonna hear things where like I'm rapping in a sense of a delivery or cadence that, you know, my boy Benny might be like, you know, like accustomed to. You'll hear like, you'll just hear like a different like influence of like the artistry and the beat selection, but it's gonna be a very hard album.
Ooh,
like
I can't wait, man.
Very, very similar. What's cool is because there's even other projects from the crew. There's Note to Self, which is a duo. It's Benny Digital and Paradigm. But Ballet Song, Note to Self, like combined, there's gonna be like an influence of both groups in the DotWav new album. So
excellent.
More to come on that.
Awesome, man. Well, dope. Well, with that, hey, where do you want people to go listen to your music at? Is it on Bandcamp, Spotify? What do you prefer?
Yeah, I would say just check out our music on all like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. We got a channel on there, so check out all our music video, like our content, vlogs. We got some pretty hilarious vlogs. As you can tell, like us Islanders and Filipinos, man, we go crazy. So it's like, but it's cool. You get to see candidly,
I love
like,
it, man,
how we operate, and it's just like we just have a good time, man, and that's how dope music should be produced. It's like have fun with it, you know.
No, hey, I'm aligned with that vibe, man. So good times. Well, good. Hey, thank you again. It's an honor to be able to do this interview with you. And again, man, I just look forward to everything that you guys have coming out, and I wish you guys all continued success. I look forward to following your musical career, man. Thank you.
Hell yeah. Thank you for like having me on it, and maybe we can jump on the track soon. So we'll see.
We'll make it happen, brother. Yeah. Hey, thank you, man. All right.